Antony, to get us started, give me two truths and a lie, please, sir.
Uh, Met my wife in a bar. The Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl, and I have two kids.
Okay. The birds are gonna win the Super Bowl. Well, you know what? That may be true. It may not. You have two kids and you met your wife in a bar. Hmm. Well, I'm just going to set aside number three because they obviously just did. So I'm going to guess that you did not meet your wife in a bar.
Actually, I did meet my wife in a bar. I just don't
Ah.
think the the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl this year, but I appreciate you
That,
giving them hope and a chance.
that is a bold-faced lie that the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. Just ask anybody from Philadelphia right now.
That's funny. That's a
Yep.
great intro. I like that.
Yeah. All right. So you did meet your wife in a bar. What kind of bar
Yep.
was it? This is like a country bar, a
Just a regular bar. It was the night before Thanksgiving, so everybody's coming home from college, and voila, magic happened.
the the often said most popular bar night of the year. Everybody's back
Yep.
home and heading out to run into old friends. So you
Yep.
do have two kids, Anthony?
I do. I've got two boys, 25 and 23.
Okay. Good kids?
Yeah, so far so good. Can't complain. They've pretty much on the straight and narrow, so all good.
Yeah. I mean,
Good.
what more can you ask for? All right.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, sir. Well, what is top of mind for you right now?
Well, just trying to end the year on a good note. But it's been a good business year, and you know, come year end now, just trying to collect some receivables and hopefully end the year on a good note. So that's what's keeping me up at night right now.
Yeah. Making sure all the boxes get checked and all the things as we head
Yep.
into the new year. And how has the year been looking back?
Well, the year seems to go faster and faster. I just can't believe where this year has gone to. I think somebody told me this year life is like a roll of toilet paper. When you get closer to the center, it just goes, winds faster and faster. And I just feel like I'm getting towards past the center now. It just seems the years go faster. But it's been a good year. Really, our business has really grown and done a lot of interesting things and. So I'm excited to see where some of the investments we made this year take us next year.
So Forrest Gump famously gave us life is like a box of chocolates, and now your buddy or whoever told you life is like a roll of toilet paper.
Yep, that's
Both
exactly right.
equally descriptive, just a little bit
Yep,
different. So,
right.
what are you most excited about in the new year? How is technology changing what it is that you are doing, if at all?
Yeah, no, I mean it's obviously AI is top of mind for everybody, and in our business, which is regulated, and we also have fiduciary risk to manage. Bringing AI to the table just makes a ton of sense. It's just trying to figure out how to do it and do it cost effectively and try to achieve the efficiencies we think we can achieve. So I've actually just started reading a number of books on the subject matter, just trying to understand really from a small business perspective, what are the tools we can be using and looking at and how do you go about implementing it and obviously trying to get buy-in from all your employees as well because they've got to uh, buy in as well to, hopefully find those efficiencies to, make it worthwhile.
It is certainly many positive things are happening to businesses with artificial intelligence. As you sit in the lead chair, I don't know that it's necessarily an enviable thing to have to kind of suss through and make decisions about which piece of technology to focus on over the others.
Yeah. No, I've been spending a lot of time on it and some of these solutions are, really, really expensive and, in a small business, I mean, you really have to have a pretty strong ROI to be able to, you know, spend that kind of money. I mean, you really got to be able to justify the hours and time that you potentially save and or the dollars you can grow your business by and whatnot. It's not an easy task. I think it's really going to be sort of incremental little things that you can do, uh, you know, for the various tasks that our trust officers have to do on a daily basis. Can you just sort of incrementally build upon them and, try to uh, tack something first, see how it works, and then try to build upon it. And hopefully you'll find more efficiencies along the way.
And when you are thinking about it, you're probably thinking about it just from a everyday operations of your business, but then helping the people that you're actually serving as well.
No, absolutely. I mean, as I said, our business as a trust company, we're regulated by, the Department of Banking in South Dakota, and then, we also have fiduciary risks that we have to manage for, all of our clients. And I think if you can't bring technology to bear, you can't really grow the business the way you want to grow it. I mean, you really become trapped by the number of trust that you have and the complexity that they bring to the table. And, the only thing you can do to it is just add more and more people to try to figure out those issues. And, that just, those people's salaries just don't drop to the bottom line. And I think that's really where, bringing AI as an effective tool can really, really help.
Yeah, well, that certainly makes sense. When people ask you what you do, how do you describe that?
Well, I tell people I'm like a high price psychiatrist for wealthy people. I deal with rich people problems all day, um, but in actual fact, we really are, we act as trustee for, high net worth, ultra high net worth families that, have created a legacy for themselves and want to, extend that legacy for multiple generations. And we look over those funds, make sure they're being invested correctly, and then distribute those funds out to the beneficiaries and making sure that the money gets spent properly and appropriately, and then that money can last for multiple generations.
And when that roll of toilet paper were brand new, Anthony, is this what you saw yourself doing?
No, no. I mean, I started out life, well, as an accountant, and then I spent about 15 years in investment banking. And my dad was actually practicing trust and estates and attorney for most of his career, and he had the idea to start this, and quickly realized he couldn't maintain his legal practice and create a trust company. And so he called me, and one thing led to another, and we got this thing off the ground 18 years ago, and here we are 18 years later. So it's been an interesting run, trying to take a business really from scratch to where we are today. And, obviously working with my father was a, once in a lifetime opportunity. And so it's been a, really, really interesting experience.
It's certainly been through quite a bit over that 18-year period, obviously, with the Great Recession and then
Yeah, no.
COVID. And
Yeah, no, we couldn't have started at the worst time. And we started in the middle of 2008, right as, the market was melting. And yeah, no, lived through COVID and whatnot. So, but that's the risk when you take on as, a business owner. I mean, you get that, but hopefully you get that financial freedom, but you open yourself up to, all the various risks that come along the way that, as an employee, maybe you don't sort of face, but also get that potential for financial freedom. So, you've got to sort of weigh those two things.
life's a series of trade-offs, after all.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you are serving ultra high net worth people, families, and all these things are changing around us and them. We've got COVID and markets go up and they go down. Have the needs of your clients changed, or are they pretty much the same?
No, I think they've pretty much remained the same. I mean, I think, when, in the position that we serve, our clients, obviously have created a lot of wealth. And, the issues that we have to deal with is, well, what I find is, if the parents have instilled good values in their kids, this money or whatever they've generated in wealth, it doesn't seem to really affect the families. It's, the families that haven't sort of passed on good values to their kids, that's when sort of things go off the rails and where we have to sort of, manage expectations and whatnot for a lot of these beneficiaries. And so, that's that's the hard part. But we've been lucky that a lot of our clients are have taught their kids well, and I think that's been one of the interesting things that I've learned over the last 18 years is, you know, how do you teach your kids good values, how to teach them how to respect money so that, when they grow up and start earning their own incomes, how do they look at that? How do they think about their futures and potentially, will they be able to be good savers so that, they could pass on, hopefully a nice nest egg to their kids.
There's pretty staggering statistics about generational wealth, specifically when it comes to business owners, that family businesses do not commonly survive past the second generation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And part of that is, just the values haven't been instilled in that first generation. They've been born with sort of a silver spoon in their mouth and haven't faced any adversity and whatnot. And so when they sort of take over the businesses and things go off the rails, they make bad decisions. And that's where, these businesses, tend to crater and whatnot. So it's not easy. I mean, you really have to think about how you put a succession plan in place for that younger generation if they are potentially going to join a business, and how do you get them up to speed? How do you get the employees within the business to respect them, and as they grow and get older, so that you can have the continuity going forward. It's just not an easy thing to do.
No, it doesn't even sound easy.
No, no, no. Especially if you want it to, if you want the business to perpetuate. I mean, you can obviously hand it off to the next generation. There's no guarantee it'll make it past that one, and so it's very easy to just turn it over. But if you want it to perpetuate, then you really have to put a lot of thought behind it in terms of a succession plan, so that you can get it past the second generation.
And do you do that succession planning piece?
We don't. But I've often thought about it for my own business. I've obviously got boys now that are in their 20s, and would I want them coming into the business? And if I did, how would I go about doing that and integrating that and whatnot? I mean, uh, I've done it once with my father, with him getting me introduced to a lot of the families that he knew, and to sort of taking it over from there. But the business is very different than, we were two people. Now we're 15, and how do you bring in somebody that doesn't have any experience to be able to take over a business where you've got experienced trust officers working there, and you know get them to respect them, and uh, listen to them on a going forward basis.
And so, how do you interact and interface with financial advisors?
So we work with, as trustee, we obviously have to have the assets of the trust managed. And so we work with, I think, 100 plus advisors around the country today. Sort of every flavor you can imagine, from small RIAs to large wirehouse advisors to multifamily offices, RIAs. So we kind of see it all, from manager approach to picking individual stocks to low cost ETFs and whatnot. So it's a pretty fascinating market to watch and see how it's evolved over the last 20 plus years that I've been involved in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can only imagine. And very interesting that you find yourself potentially in the position where your clients are, where you've got your two boys and you're wondering if they're even interested in taking over the business, or if they have no interest at all. And if they're not going to, or one is and the other is not, how do you equalize
Yep,
all that kind of stuff?
yep, yeah. No, it's lots of questions around that, and same questions that a lot of our families face, and how do they deal with it? And you obviously want to treat all your kids equally, but should if my son was to come into this business and grow it exponentially, should his hard work be shared with my other son, or how do you deal with that? And uh, I think different families deal with it differently, but I think if you're coming in and growing a business, you should be able to enjoy the value that you've created. I'm not sure it needs to be shared with the rest of the family. All the assets that you accumulate from growing that business should be shared equally, but I think the value of the business, I don't think needs to be shared.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing for sure. Amber, Reading a quote from Warren Buffett. I'm probably not going to get it exactly right, but he said something along the lines of, I want to give my kids enough money so they can do whatever they want, but not enough so they can do nothing.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Um, it's a very fine line. I mean, when you're talking about, take Warren Buffett, where you're talking hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, uh, is it $1 billion, or is it 2 billion, or is it 50 million? I mean, obviously you could live very, very comfortably off 50 million and never have to work again. It's interesting. But I think he obviously, I think, passed on some pretty good values to his kids, and I think they respect money, and I don't think you're going to have any issues. But for some of these families, I mean, what are you going to do with $1 billion? I mean, there's just so much good you can do in the world with that money. Do you need to go to spend it on yourself or on material things that probably don't bring you happiness at the end of the day? It is actually a pretty big burden if you ask me.
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? That for 99.99% of human beings on Earth, they would look at and say, I'd happily accept that
Yep.
burden.
Yep.
But I bet there's kids in those families that would happily walk away from it all.
Yep. Yep. Oh, well, they say more money, more problems.
As the saying goes, and that apparently has played out in real life for the artist who sang that song. So,
Yep. No, that's exactly right. Exactly right. But yeah, no, it's interesting what money will make you do. I mean, it's pretty crazy, some of the things that we've seen over the years, just what money will do to people, and it's mostly evil.
yeah,
Mostly.
it's usually not super awesome stuff.
Yep.
So what is your value proposition? What is it that makes Sterling different from other trust companies?
Yeah, I think how we try to sort of position ourselves in the marketplace is, we're a completely independent trust company, and we purely act as a trustee. So we eliminate a lot of conflicts of interest that exist at most bank trust companies. So you take a Northern Trust, for example, or Wilmington Trust, probably names you've heard of in the past, where they're acting as your trustee, as your investment advisor, as your custodian, and really the person that gets screwed at the end of the day is the end client, because of the conflicts of interest that exist within most of these entities. And by us purely acting as a trustee, we eliminate a lot of those conflicts. So, the conflicts that we see are, one, on the investment management side. If Wilmington Trust is doing a bad job managing the assets, unlikely they're going to fire themselves and move those assets to Goldman Sachs. And what we do is, we will objectively look over the investment advisor that's managing these assets. If they're not performing or servicing us, we'll move those assets somewhere else where we'll hopefully get better management. So it keeps everybody honest, uh, and sort of rowing in the same direction. And the other thing that we see is really on the distribution side, where a client wants a distribution from a bank trust company. They make you stand on your head to get that money out, because if they distribute that money out, it lowers their assets under management, which lowers their fees. And again, the client gets screwed there when this is their parents or their kids' legacies that have been built here, and they don't get to enjoy it. And so by us purely acting as a trustee, and we work on a fixed fee basis versus an AUM basis. So, we don't have an axe to grind. And so we eliminate those two conflicts of interest that you see at a big bank trust company.
Did you go into it with that approach, or is that something that you've evolved over time?
No, that was the approach that we took. It's sort of a model that was sort of mainly more prevalent in Europe, where sort of the trust company really didn't manage assets in the past, and I think it's starting to catch on here in the U.S., particularly in some of these tax-free states like South Dakota, Delaware, Alaska, Nevada, Tennessee, for example, where you've got these independent trust companies that don't manage any assets themselves and sort of eliminate those conflicts. And so you're starting to see that part of the trust business really start to grow here in the US.
And that really makes sense to me intellectually, that I wouldn't want to have all of those conflicts. I wouldn't want I the whole idea that just because the market went up, that the investment advisor is making a lot more money.
Yep.
But that's just my take. So
Yeah. No, there are perverse incentives in that market. I mean, for a lot of investment advisors, you reach a certain amount of clients, you really don't have to work anymore. and you can just live off the the yearly, annual, and hopefully growth in those assets if the market continues to do well. And yeah, I mean, there's just not a whole lot of incentive for them to service their clients or whatnot. So it is interesting, the incentives in that marketplace.
And it makes sense to me. It's talking about how, although so many factors change that are outside of our control, that the work you're doing is pretty much remaining the same because the needs of your clients, regardless of what technology is doing, regardless of what the markets are doing, that stays true, and that you would operate your business first based on similar first principles, and that you started that way, I think makes a lot of sense. So,
Yep.
well,
Yep.
Anthony, you've given us a lot, but we're ready for that difference making tip. What do you have for us?
Difference making tip. Wow. I think, you know, you really have to live within your means. And I think is saving money is really sort of the key to your future. And if you can start young, whether it's when you start delivering papers in high school and putting some money aside to taking a job in college, put all that money into a Roth IRA that, you pay the tax and just let that money grow during your lifetime. So when you retire, you can take that money out, not pay any tax, and, hopefully live a good retirement. So take advantage of, deferred savings accounts to make your money grow.
Well, I think that that is great stuff. You can definitely get to, come on. Yeah, right there. If you can get that habit early,
Yep.
every time that you start earning a paycheck, you put 15% of it into a Roth IRA or some beneficial account and let compound interest work for you. You'll be happy you
Yep.
did that.
Yep.
Well, Anthony,
Exactly.
thank you so much for coming on. Where can people learn more about you? How can they engage with you and Sterling? Sterling.
Sure. Yeah, they can go to our website, which is www.sterlingtrustees.com, and or they can reach out to me directly at 610-234-0626, or they can get me on my email, which is ajoffe, AJOFFE, at sterlingtrustees.com.
Excellent. Well, if you enjoyed this as much as I did, show Anthony your appreciation. Share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas. Go to Sterling Trustees. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Sterling Trust. That's the problem with bad handwriting, Anthony. I can't. Nope. Nobody can read it. It's all a secret, including to me. SterlingTrustees.com, and dig more into what we've been talking about. You can give him a call, shoot him an email. I'll put all those in the notes of the show. Thanks again, Anthony.
Great. Appreciate it.
Finally, friendly reminder: there's never going to be anybody more interested in your financial success than you are. So act accordingly.